These are 9 life lessons that I wish I knew a lot earlier in my career. My name is Brian Waldron. By the age of 26, I did $3.5 million in my event space business. Now we operate a company called Mannequin, which also owns Event Space Elites. We show people how to find, fund, and fill their very own event space. We've been blessed to show over 400 people how to do the same thing. Like I mentioned in this video, I want to go through 9 life lessons that I wish I knew a lot earlier in my career. One of the biggest things about these life lessons that I had a conversation with one of my friends the other day, and they're just like, all right, cool. If you can do everything all over again, if you can go back in time and tell your younger self, what would you tell them? And these are the 9 things that I figured would have helped me the most. Number 1, get around people who are smarter than you. At the height of my first business, BK Event Spaces, I thought I was hot shit. We were doing like $30,000 a month, but looking back, the problem was that out of all my friends, I did the best. There was no challenge to grow, and it got very, very easy to get complacent because it's kind of like when you're a girl and you're the hottest one around all our hot friends, it's like, okay, cool, I'm that girl, I'm that chick. But the minute you go to like an America's Next Top Model circle or whatever the case may be, now it's a whole different conversation. You always want to be raising the bar. No matter where you are or who you're with, there's always another level. When I was around people who were doing $20,000, $30,000 a month, and I saw people who were doing $50,000 a month. When I was making $50,000 a month, I saw people who were making $100,000 a month. When I was making $100,000 a month, I saw people making $1 million a month. There's always somebody doing better than you, and it's not a point to feel like, oh my God, there's always somebody better, but it's always room to grow, and there's always room to hit another level. Number 2, fail fast. The greatest successes in life came from people who weren't afraid to fail. However, so many dreams die due to the fact that people are scared to fail. When I start a business, I don't care about failing. I don't care about putting out fires. I want to get data. I want to run as fast as possible, hit a wall, and then learn how to get through that wall. That's me. That's how I look at business. I want data. I just want to know if the hypothesis is true or not. We were creating an offer called the Premier Offer in Event Space Elites, where essentially what we're doing is we're collapsing time. So instead of people taking 90 days to get their event space with our Premier Offer, we'll get it done for them in 30. Now, I'm not gonna lie, I put the offer out before even knowing if we can do it. Like, I had a hypothesis. I knew that we could do it. I just didn't know how hard or how difficult or how much work it would actually take. And don't get me wrong, it took a lot of work. So when I was selling the Premier Offer, we had to fail very, very fast. I had to learn exactly how long it would take to find a space, how much negotiation was taking place, how many people I need to put on the case, what's gonna take to go into the lease, how long is the lease gonna take. I had to figure out all these things down to a T so that we can make the offer better and better. But if I did not try to fail fast, if I did not go and put that offer out and go and try to take it to the next level, I would have probably been still sitting on hypothesis. I would have probably been still thinking like, oh, well, maybe we can do it. Maybe we can try, but you've got to do it. You've got to just jump out there. Sometimes you got to build the ship on the water before you even know if it's going to even float. Number 3, be ruthless with your time. This is a big one. This is a really, really key one, right? The people who make the most money in the world are not necessarily smarter than you and me. They just know how to allocate their time better. When I was running BK Event Spaces, for those who don't know, that was my brick and mortar chain of event space locations. I was doing everything myself. I was doing the cleaning, I was doing the fixing. I even learned a little bit of plumbing. I was answering the messages. I was doing the open houses. I did everything myself. And to be honest, that's probably why I was so small. It wasn't until I began to delegate tasks in the business that my business started to grow. I know for a fact I would not have been able to hit $30,000 in a month within maybe a year or so if I did not delegate. What did I do? I delegated the housekeeping, then I delegated the messages, then I delegated the open houses, then I delegated the rentals. In your business, it's the same thing. There are things that you're doing in your business that you have no business doing. Work on the business so you don't have to work in the business. And don't get me wrong, like, I want to be very, very clear here. When you're starting up a business, you have to do everything yourself at first. You need the data. You cannot delegate what you've never done. But once you've mastered it, put it into an SOP or standard operating procedures, then you go and hire it out. That's the way I run my company now. Once I figured out how to do something, we put it in an SOP, we can pass it on to somebody else. That's almost like schmuck insurance too, because if Sally's not doing a good job in your company and Sally starts to mess up, now guess what? Sally's position is documented in an SOP, find another Sally. Number 4, the person who focuses on one thing becomes really hard to beat. If I could write a song about this, I would, because that's how strongly I feel about this. We live in a society where everybody has shiny object syndrome. They're jumping from thing to thing like a squirrel looking for a nut. But the thing that you apply the most of your time to becoming better at will be the one that grows, period. When I was running BK Event Spaces, that's all I did. I didn't have social media. That is all I did. I didn't have Airbnb Airbnbs on the side. I didn't have a coaching business on the side. I wasn't flipping properties on the side. All I did was event space. That's all I did. That's all I knew. That's all I slept. That's all I breathed. But now you got all these people who are just like, oh, I got 2 rental properties and I have an Airbnb and I do a credit repair business. And guess what? They're fucking broke. Whenever I hear somebody tell me something like that, and don't get me wrong, like there are some people who are very, very good at delegating and building out systems and stuff like that, but it's very, very rare. 9 times out of 10, I hear somebody, oh yeah, I got 2 rental properties and I got an Airbnb and I got to clean. I know they're fucking broke because they're running around jumping from thing to thing. Because here's the big thing. Here's the big kicker here. If they were making so much money off those 2 rental properties, why would they not get more? If they were making so much money off that Airbnb, why would they not do more? And don't get me wrong, this is not to be confused with vertical integration. When it comes to vertical integration, that means you have a sub business that works with the chain business, with the core business. Now, I get it. That makes sense. If I ran BK Event Spaces and one of the biggest expenses is cleaning, if I own a cleaning company to vertically integrate so that they could pay for my cleaning costs, like that would make sense. But I'm talking about the people who have businesses that literally have nothing to do with each other. Like, yeah, I have an Airbnb and I have a spa business. What the actual fuck? Like, what sense does that make? Number 5, protect your reputation at all costs. July 2023 is when we sold all of our event space locations. I have another video breaking down why we sold our locations, but I remember specifically I had wanted to make that video because I didn't want anybody coming out like, oh, Brian's teaching about event space. He doesn't even do it no more. Like, there was a very logical reason why I made that strategic move. And again, I talked about that video. Shortly after that video dropped, there was a guy that had commented about the video and tagged me and was just like, see, he got rid of his business and he's teaching people how to do it. I immediately commented back to him and I was just like, I literally wrote down 3 reasons why we sold the businesses and I specifically addressed exactly what you're talking about. There's no scamming here. There's no pulling wool over anybody's eyes or anything like that. I specifically addressed why we sold the business and we made that strategic move. Come to find out, he was really more pissed off because he had booked a call with us and we disqualified him. So it's just like, you're literally trying to call me out on something that I've already addressed and you don't even have any real evidence to back it up. But the point that I'm trying to make is that one of the biggest things you must protect at all costs is your reputation. If I let him make that post, no matter how many followers he had or whatever the case may be, if I let him put that out into the ecosystem and didn't address it at all, somebody might actually believe that. Somebody might actually think like, yeah, well, you know, Brian doesn't have event space anymore, so how is he really going to teach it? Somebody might actually believe that, and that might actually lose a customer for our business. I wouldn't want that floating around in the ecosystem, so I'm going to address it head on because I want to protect my reputation at all costs. Number 6, your word is your bond. There was a time in my life when I didn't truly understand how our words could be so powerful, and a situation had occurred. I remember my mom looking at me and saying, I don't even trust what you say anymore. I remember it was kind of like time stood still because at that moment I realized that my word meant nothing anymore, and that's a really tough thing to sit with. Your word must be ironclad. Whether it's the smallest promise, I'll pick you up at 8, or something big like I'll always protect you, when your words leave your mouth, they've gotta hold weight. Number 7, work for experience, not for money. This is another really big one. If you are in your 20s, and this especially goes for if you're living with your parents and you don't have a lot of bills and whatnot, use this time to gather skills. I remember in my early 20s, this is probably around when I was maybe 18 or 19. I remember it was my first couple years of college and I had started to work at a management company. The biggest reason for me working at that management company is because at the time I wanted to like go into finance and stuff like that. But deep down inside, I knew I always wanted to be an entrepreneur. I was just working at that job for the money. I mean, it wasn't great, but it was cool. But the biggest thing for me, it was just the money and the notoriety at that point. So I had to make a strategic move to work for the experience and not for the money. And that's when I got a job in a restaurant as a host and as a server. Now, I'm gonna be very, very honest. I knew that servers could make a lot of money. So that's a real big reason that I was jumping into that. However, I knew that if I was a server, I'd get way more comfortable talking to people. I get way more comfortable at selling, and I get way more comfortable being in a fast-paced environment. And those are crucial skills for a business. Number 8, invest in skill sets, not school. Let me be very, very clear here, right? I'm not against school. I'm not anti-school. Like, I have a 4-year degree myself. However, I do think that there's better things to do with your time at that crucial stage in your life. I think it's great for certain majors and of course, you know, the structure, the networking aspect, all that good stuff. But in this time and age, you can get way higher quality skills for way less financial and time invest. I'm gonna be very honest. I went to school for real estate finance. I could probably name maybe 2 or 3 things that I actually learned. Business law, that was a really, really good one. Business law was definitely a really important class. But overall, if I can do it all over again, I definitely would have probably gotten like a sales position, learned how to sell, moved up in the company, used those sales positions for my business, and so on and so forth, and just kind of gathered it like that. Number 9, those around around you will not always understand the mission, but they will respect it once it becomes successful. When I first started BK Event Spaces, my family told me it wasn't gonna be a good idea. I remember kind of taking on the role of, I guess, black sheep, because I knew that I was one of the, if not the only entrepreneur in my family at that time. Nobody really understood what it was. I come from an immigrant household, so it was always like, go to college, go to school, get a good job, get a job in finance, kind of, you know, grow up, save your money, get a house, all that good stuff. The American way. But I just knew that wasn't my calling. And the biggest thing is that nobody believes in you and what you're gonna do until it becomes successful. I'm not saying to go all in on something that you have no skills in and nobody believes in you. Definitely make sure you can actually do this, but you can't lose if you never quit. So many people stop right before they hit a pot of gold at the end of the tunnel, and they don't realize that if they just dug a little bit deeper and dug a little bit more, they would have gotten there. Now it's coming to the point when I was running BK Event Spaces, people would start asking me for a job and people would start reaching out like, oh, how'd you start a business? I just didn't give up. I just didn't stop until I was actually successful. And then at that point, when you receive the accolades and you get to the end of the tunnel and you see that pot of gold, now everybody wants to cheer you on. Guys, again, my name is Brian Waldron. I make these videos, one, to showcase our business and to showcase business just in general. If you're watching this video and you're in your 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, it's never too late to go out there and do what you're meant to do. This video is really to inspire people to jump out on faith, get it done, and as always, let's get it, let's go. Talk to you soon.